Okay, so welcome back to my podcast. My name is Antonio Jr., and today we have a little bit of a special guest here with my dad, Antonio Sr., and he works as an outreach worker in the small city of Lynn. He was born and raised in New York, and he's gone through a lot of challenges and a lot of processes in his life. And the main reason why I'm bringing him here today is because I want to talk about a topic that recently has seemed to affect a lot of young people around my age and my age group, and some a little bit older and some even younger, which is a lot of gang violence. And I know obviously you have a lot of experience dealing with it, and sometimes you were even at a point a part of it yourself. And you know, it's a long process to get out of that cycle and to even avoid it. There's a lot of things that go into it. Some people have life challenges that leads them into it, and some people think it's cool to be a part of it. So kind of getting into it, I wanted to ask you is what made you, decide as a career to help really get those young people off of the streets and, try to guide them onto a better path from, straying into that kind of life?
Well, first off, I'm proud of you. It's kind of different sitting across from my son. And the topic that you've picked is a topic that's been discussed over the years, especially the last 5 years. It's been even more of a heavy topic because of, a lot of it has been going on in the school system, not only in Lynn, but in other cities. Now, in the past year, a little bit more than ever. For us in Lynn, it's been a little bit heavier. One or two of the schools it's been more busy, per se, with the gang situations. And they don't want to consider it gang and stuff, but it is. It's been a situation. For me personally, you know my story yourself, but for those that don't know, born in New York, and I started at an early age. It was a choice that I made. I wanted to be a part of something, and back then to now, it's a whole different situation. Now, a lot of the times, a lot of the young kids just, they get caught up in it because they see it on videos or social media or stuff like that, and a lot of times they get pressured into it. For me, it was a choice. We didn't have any of that back in the day. It was you joined and you did what everybody else did. Today, it's tough because it's like, the younger population, they don't realize that it's different, right? You get caught up in the system of carrying a gun, or now it's not, nobody fights with their hands anymore. Now it's all about weapons. And to be a part of a gang, it's being a part of a weapon. What being a part of a weapon means that if I carry a gun, I'm passing that weapon on. Your hands is all over those weapons, right? So once you get caught, once you get arrested, you're in the system. So it's no longer the gang thing, because once you're in the system, you're in jail, they forget about who you are most of the time. For me, you know what I'm saying, the reason why I chose to do this work was, early on when I first moved to Lynn, back then it was it was different from what it is now, especially within the neighborhood of where we are. It was easy to decipher who belonged to what gang. And there were certain circumstances that led up to me making a decision. It was either I was going to go back to this gang thing, or I was going to, make a decision to okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply myself to doing something to help the community that I'm living in, to make a difference, right? And I never thought that 15 years later I'd still be doing the work that I do and becoming who I am, and it's molded me into the person and the man that I am today. And of course, as you know, everywhere I go, somebody knows me, or not so much necessarily knows me personally, but knows the work that we've done. And it's a we thing. It used to be just me, but of course I have a team now, so I've been blessed to be able to do the work that I do. And helping and molding some of the young people to make better decisions. To help them curb that decision is pretty much painting as we say, painting a picture of what it would look like. For some, they adhere to that. Some make the decision to go ahead and continue doing what they do until they get caught up in the system, and once they're locked up, there's nowhere else to go, right? So, I was watching something on TV, and it's funny because the guy in the interview said that one, not even a guy, it was a woman. She said, once that bullet leaves that gun, it's over. You can't take that back. You cannot take that bullet back. Once that bullet leaves that gun, the decision is made for the rest of your life. Once you take a life, it's done. There's no taking it back. There's no getting away with it. Whether you go to jail or not, it still remains in your mind. So,
and of course, going off of what you just said, where it involves not only the violence of it and the involvement of like people my age, it's also the lives that get taken in the process. And even in recent day, it's been probably one of the biggest things. It leads to the point where even, somebody I used to know, was shot and killed in recent day. And even just in the past couple months, end of last year, there's been at least over like 18, teens and younger people that have passed away due to this kind of violence. And, it's not only the effect on the people involved, but I want to know, like, what have you seen with the effects on families and the effects on, the people around those ones involved, and how do mom, dad, and people like that, and sometimes even how it affects you being so far into the process of helping. You probably knew those kids and tried to help them get off, and knowing that they've lost their lives due to exactly what you wanted to change. What kind of mental effect does that put on you and the people, the other families involved?
Well, first off, let me say this. On a personal level, I think about you every day. I know you attend school. It is imperative and important to me to make sure that the school system is safe, and what they do to ensure the safety of the schools. I make sure I remain part of that, because not only do you attend the school system, but other young people attend here too, right? Not just here, but other schools. Number two, it affects me in a sense where I've sat with mothers. I've cried with mothers. It's hard, because what do you say to a parent that has lost their child to gang violence or street violence in general, right? Sometimes the young person isn't even a part of something, right? They just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, that because this person has beef with that person, they open fire and they spread bullets, and it has nothing to do with that young person that just happened to be at that place at the wrong time, and they get killed for no reason. So now it becomes a matter of, man, what do we do? Or he is a part of something, and no matter what I did to try to convince him, to help him understand that that's not the way to go, now it's too late. Now we can't do nothing. Now here we go, yet another funeral. One of the hardest things for me is when I go to the funeral home and the funeral director knows me by my first name. Not because he's read about me in the newspaper, but because I've been there so many times that when I walk through the door, hey, Antonio, here we are again. That's sad. And it breaks my heart, because it's like you watch these families go through this pain process, right? And in the back of your head and in the back of your mind and in your heart that it's not over yet, that there's more to come. Because these young people, no matter what you say and no matter what you tell them, they're so bent on revenge that they think that the way to go about this is to take somebody else's life. I used to say, so you take one of mine, I take one of yours, you take one of mine, I take one of yours, you take me out, they take you out. When does it stop? When do we end? When do our parents rest and don't have to worry about, the gun violence? You know, one of the things that I learned early on, right before I left the streets, was gangs will never end. Just like drugs will never end. It will never end. Will it curb? It might. You know, and it's sad to say that no matter what the government and the state or the world does, that stuff will never go away. It will never go away. It's a matter of what we do within our own community and how do we go about educating our young people. You know, go to school, get an education, make a difference, change, leave and come back, give back to your community, help mold and change our young people. So we hope that, you know, and I tell people, how is it that somebody from the outside can come to a city that I didn't even know exist, and I come and I make a difference? How is that? Right? And here we are.
Yeah, because being, you know, around the people who are involved in those kinds of things, I've also noticed from, like, just looking at it like one of my peers, and I've heard, like, the conversations and things like that. It's a process that's sad to see how somebody will develop from, you know, a bright human being that I knew when I was in, like, 8th grade, you know, laughing, you know, although they did, like, you know, things that they shouldn't have done at that time, they weren't as involved, and just seeing it progress from, you know, it's almost like a stage. It's like you go through the early stage where, you know, you still don't have those kinds of, you know, violent negative thoughts. You're still messing around as a kid, and then just like a few years later you get involved and you start becoming part of what people think is cool, which is like the streets and being tough and things like that. And it's like, instead of picking the right time where there's a difference between needing to be tough and wanting to be tough. And I've noticed where that line has just disappeared now. Everybody thinks just because they want to be tough, they need to be tough. When in reality, you know, being around each other should just be more about getting along and, you know, being able to just, you know, sort things out either through talking or, you know, letting it, you know, go before it gets to a certain point. And again, like, even like that person I knew that got killed not too long ago in front of Crunch, like, I still have videos of that person on my phone from 8th grade where everything was just calm and,
which
you know,
one was that?
Kyle. I still have fake, you know, videos, you know, and it's like some people that you didn't even, like, know too well, but you just knew enough to, you know, consider them like a light friend or anything like that. Like, next thing you know, you don't even see that person anymore. Next day they wind up on the news.
Yeah.
And it's just a process that, like, one is on a level of, you know, looking at it from an adult's perspective where you wanted to make a change is one thing, but also being on the level of being, you know, that person's, you know, equal, being on the same level as that person at a certain point in time, same age, you know, going through, you know, some years with that person and then seeing them just going like that. It's just something that, you know, it puts you into the perspective of, like, what could have changed if I was friends with that person instead? What would have changed if, you know, we were closer? But it's also something that's, just like you said, it's something that doesn't change. It's something that doesn't go away. You know, I've even witnessed, you know, my girlfriend was crying because her friend had gotten killed too, that she knew for a long time. It's like, especially in a small place like Lynn where everybody knows each other, you see the different types of effects from families to even like close friends, and how deeply one person that, you know, was involved with gang, but in reality behind the scenes they were more of a kind heart, which is where another line kind of just disappears, where it's like even the most genuine of people that you may know can be involved in, you know, something so deep and messed up. And that's where it has such a bigger effect, because if just, you know, people who weren't as good, you know, were just negative all the time, were just angry all the time, were involved in it, you know, maybe it wouldn't have as large of an effect. It would still hurt families, but it may not have hurt so many people. But it's the fact that anybody you know can get involved by just being around the wrong people. And I think that's what's more messed up nowadays, just like you said, with social media and the technology and everything. I feel like it's so easy to spread that information, you know, the way parties happen, and just easily by going to one party, you get to know the wrong people.
Yep.
And even in schools, it's like age doesn't even matter. A freshman can get involved with a senior and instantly become part of something that they shouldn't be a part of. It's such an easy process now throughout the school systems with social media. It's like, it's one of those things where even though I may not know, barely any people who are involved in it, even looking at it from an outside perspective, it still gets sad. And just imagining the effect it can have on families, imagining the effect that it could have on, a mom or a dad. It's like, I couldn't even imagine my mom knowing that, I may have gotten hurt in the streets. And especially with my older brother being as old as he is, and sometimes how he likes to put himself in the streets, like, sometimes I've even thought, even just with him simply driving, like, I can't imagine getting a phone call and realizing, my older brother's gone. That's a pain that doesn't go away no matter how many years it goes.
It's a hard thing, and you're one of my kids, right? One of my young people, one of my sons, and when my phones go off, I'm always checking, I'm always looking, because I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be the next parent that I'm going to get a call or something happened to one of your brothers, one of your sisters, whether it was on the street, whether it was intentional or unintentional. Like, how am I going to react? What's going to happen? Why did it happen? Who did it? And why? What am I going to do about it? Am I going to resort to back in the day? Am I going to, what I mean? How am I going to react? Right? I always say no. I gotta allow the system to do what I know that they can do. Am I really going to do that? Right? So, a lot takes place. So I watch and I listen to some of the parents that have lost their kids, and and it's painful. It's painful. A lot of our young people, it's easy to say, listen, man, don't go that route, man. That it's easy to say that. I'm not a young person. In this day and age, I'm not you. I'm not you per se. You yourself. I know that you yourself were put in many positions. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe most of the time you didn't talk to me about it, right? Because for whatever reason you didn't want to talk to me about it, or didn't want to mention to me that you were put maybe in a position where it was like, which way you're going to go, right? I'm just blessed in knowing that you have made some right decisions in your life to get to where you're at. You're a senior, you're about, you're going to graduate, you're looking at college, right? Not every young person has made that decision to get to that point. I tell young people, man, do the right thing, put me out of business. Force me to close my doors for the right reasons, because every young person is going to make the right decision moving forward. If that was the case, can you imagine the better world that we would live in? Unfortunately, that's not where we're at.
Because I feel like it also comes down to how a lot of young people emotionally develop as well. I feel like a lot of people being raised in certain households where they feel like, they're missing something.
So, as you know, most parents, right, single parent homes, right? Let's take you, for instance. You live at home with mom. I'm in your life. I'm nearby. Most households that I work with, only a mom. Father's not around at all. Father might be in prison or just never stayed, disappeared, right? So they don't have a role model in their life. A lot of times, a lot of young people come to me and stay with me. They grow, they get their life together, and they still come around. You know what I mean? They say, I'm like a dad, or I'm like, a big brother, or their OG, whatever they want to call me, right? I'm still a part of their life, which is great. I love it because it shows that at least they have somebody. A lot of times I tell myself it's not when people are looking. It's when people are not looking that I continue to do the right things, because I don't know when somebody's not looking. You know what I'm saying? That when nobody's around, I don't know who's watching. And so if I'm doing something wrong because I don't see somebody watching me, I don't know who's in the cut, right? So I try to continue to do the right things for the right reasons, man. Trying to set an example. It's easy to say, I'm done with this. I'm going to go in the other direction. It's easy to do that, but am I willing to pay the price? I'm not willing to lose you, or brothers and sisters, I'm not willing to go there again. I know exactly where that will get me. Been there, done that many times over, right? Some of us get an opportunity to live life again. One of the greatest things that I think happened for me was you. You gave me, and not because you interviewed me, you gave me a reason to live all over again. You gave me a reason to do all the right things, not only for myself, right? But I wanted to make sure that before I left that you had something right in your life to say, I want to do all the right things because my dad was doing the right thing. That's all. I'm not rich, I'm not, you know what I mean? And what the community thinks of me, that's all great. But I want that when I leave, I want people to say, hey, to you, like, hey, your father, you know what? He did right by you and by kids. You know what I mean? Like, I did something right, man, that I didn't take like I used to. I didn't destroy like I used to. My mother didn't get to see any of that. She didn't get to see me do the right things, or my father. My parents didn't get to see that, you know, because of, yeah, nothing good. But I asked God to give me something, one good thing in life. He gave me you. That's all I wanted. I wanted one opportunity to do something right in this life, right? And it was you and live right. And I think I've done that. I like to think that I've done right by you. And teach you some things. You know what I mean? Hard at times? Absolutely. But look at the young man that you are. You know, I was excited when you called me, like, you know, the gang life thing, you know, these young people have no idea. You know, they talk about respect, this, that, and the other thing. Ain't no such thing. They have no idea what loyalty is. When I was growing up, it was a whole different category for that. There was no social media. We didn't even have cell phones. We didn't even have pages. We had corner payphones. That used to be 10 cents. That's what we had. But what we did have, as we call it, was loyalty among thieves. Like, we respected each other. We didn't, you know what I mean? We used our hands. I can't even tell you how many times I got beat downs. But I went home. And I was alive and I survived. I'll be 60 this year. There ain't too many of me left in this world that can say I survived an entire lifetime of all of that pain to get to a place to say to young people there's better choices in life than that. It's sad because our young people, they're getting double digits in jail. One young man, 40 years. 40 years. And I knew him when he was 14, 15 years old. I know his mother. 40 years. It's sad. And then some are gone that will never get an opportunity to grow. And their parents will never get an opportunity to see them grow. That's hard.
And even I, like, heard, like, stories about, like, a story about how, you know, I also knew this one person from, like, it's even some kids who are even involved in places like church and things like that, who I've even noticed how far it goes, where even in places that are meant to, help free people from that kind of life, people look to God, people look to church for those kind of things, and now even people involved in there are out in the streets getting involved. And, somebody she knew, like, again, even like a recent event where a kid got jumped out of walking home from English by a whole group of people, and it was recorded and everything, and they didn't even get the right individual. They didn't even get the person they were looking for, and the poor kid is now, he's paralyzed. He can't even walk. And, they all got sent to jail at such, like, 17 years old for all being involved, even being there. All got sent to jail, even though they were released. A lot of people haven't been released, and now, on top of them being in jail, somebody's child now wasn't even involved in anything. Wrong person, wrong time, just like how you said, is now not only did they get harmed, their whole life is ruined now.
What I having to do with nothing.
Just from walking home
exactly.
And getting confused with the wrong person. And this is where, like, again, from, like, my POV, like, I'm not gonna say I've done, every single right thing, nor have I, nor am I the perfect individual either, and have, like, but it's differentiating myself from, those kids who get involved with that. I'm just like, at a point in time, again, we were the same type of people, and now it shows you the kind of, difference in paths. And it's just something that is sad and disappointing to see, as, again, knowing at a point in time that, I could have gone along with these people. And this, again, is also that part of where it's like, oh, if I was friends with them, like, would I have turned out different, or would they have turned out different? Because, again, I definitely could have been involved with the wrong people, and I could have went down that same path. But what if those wrong people were friends with who I knew, and in the end they turned out differently? And it's all a simple, decision at a point in time. And this is where every decision has an outcome, no matter how small, how minor, or how big the decision may be. And it's such, it's crazy to think about that, just one wrong choice just
can change
all their life,
the trajectory of your life. Exactly. I think about, my mother, your grandmother, and your grandfather, my father, how, they were detrimental in my life. But everything and I say it all the time, I came from a great home. My parents were the best parents in the world, right? They wanted the best. But the decision of everything that I did was mine. It wasn't that they were bad parents, or they didn't care, or they didn't know. When I made the decisions that I made them. I left home. I did everything that I did, and I crossed every line that was drawn. I crossed it, and I pushed that line until it was blurred, until it was gone. And whatever was put in front of me, I ran it over. It didn't even matter, And when the drugs came into play, it got even worse, I thank God that whatever it was that intervened in my life, in the end, I was able to get lifted from all of that and brought to a better place in my life to make some different decisions, right? Some things were put in my life that gave me a perspective of wanting to live, wanting to do something better for myself, and then do something better for others. And I've been fortunate for the last 15 years to be able to do that, and been given an opportunity to travel and do that. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting in front of you.
And you said it in like the perfect way, where I've also noticed that's like nowadays it's not even about how a parent raises a child. I feel like at this point in time, it's like once you hit a certain point in school and you get around certain people, it's almost like they raise you to be the individual who you are.
Yeah.
It's like you go home for a specific amount of time, and you know you're around parents, but a lot of times, especially in a place like Lynn, parents are always out working.
Yep.
Parents are almost barely home because they have to work hard for what they have. You know, we're in a low income area, low to like low mid income area where everybody has to, you know, really put in work to get what they want, to pay the bills, pay for food on the table, you know, do stuff for the kids. And it's also, you know, hurts to see that, you know, a lot of these parents, especially like you said, like, you know, single parent homes, you know, that parent is out putting in all the hard work while their kid is out in the street getting involved in something, and one day they're at work and their kid is gone. Just like that, while they're out trying to provide. And it's just, you know, again, life will lead you into certain places, into certain paths, into, you know, the areas of certain people where, you know, like you said, you know, you got to make a decision, and not everybody in the world is going to make the perfect decision. And as much as you can get raised to avoid, you know, things like drugs, like alcohol, like, you know, the violence, avoid those types of people, you know, sometimes when you get put in that situation, it's almost like you want to find out what it's really about. Because you get told no all the time and you get told something else, but in reality you don't know for yourself just how bad the effect is. And it's not only gang violence, it's also, just like how I said, like drugs, marijuana, alcohol, all of these things will also lead somebody down the wrong path where they make one wrong decision, you know, smoke with somebody for the first time. And that would then lead them to be involved with those people more, want to do it more. That smoking leads you to going into, you know, this whole group of people to do with. Next thing you know, they're part of a gang. You get around and you all go. It's all, any type of small, you know, type of negativity that can lead you down somewhere will lead you to, you know, down to the worst path possible. And I think that's what a lot of people fail to avoid nowadays. I feel like drugs have become such a common occurrence now too amongst young generations. How easy it is to smoke, how easy it is to get alcohol and things like that. Even, you know, the best of people that you may know, in reality, are just out smoking.
The numbers of that is starting to rise a little bit because it's just, and like you said, it's become like a common thing among young people, especially the alcohol and the marijuana, because it's legal to a certain extent, right? To a certain extent, and they still think that it's all legal across the board, and it's not. They're misinformed until they get caught. Then they figure it out, and then it's like, you know what I mean? But then you still, when you can't get it out of dispensary, they get it on the street, and then you still don't know what you're getting. And then you're overdosing because they're putting stuff in that street stuff that you don't even know what you're getting, and it's leading to death. So it's a vicious cycle. It is, and it's a hard cycle. Again, with you know, for gangs, it's a matter of that's how they make money. You know what I mean? The hustle. It is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Again, a lot of that has changed too. The dynamics of how a gang handles itself. You know, the higher ups, of course, it's different. You know, than the younger ones. But the kids are getting younger. The involvement is getting younger. So, and of course, for us, we're here. The battle continues to try to convince and talk and help. And I don't, you know, as we say, we don't discriminate. Whoever it is that we can get an ear and talk and help, we stand. You know, we stand, and we do our best and try to get these kids to stay in school. A lot of them want to drop out. I want to drive. I don't want to work. Bro, you're 14. Where do you think you're going to go work? Where? You know, so, yeah.
Because I just like, speaking on, like, you know, drugs and things like that, I know, you know, your form of change doesn't just stop at, just the young people. I've also seen your meetings with, older people just getting out of being drug addicts.
Yeah.
And,
My recovery.
and even just simply, those people that may not be involved with, drugs or anything like that. It's like, it's not only drugs for them. It's like at a point in time, who do you think they were involved with that they were getting it from?
Yeah.
Any sort of small involvement all stems from the fact that, it's a gang that does it, distributes it, puts it out, things like that. It's not simply just somebody in the street that you can trust. Like, it's always a long process.
Somehow there's a
like,
connection. Yep.
and it's like, hearing it from you too, like hearing your whole story, being like your son, it also puts me in the perspective of like, there can still be change when it comes to individuals who are involved in that kind of thing. I remember, being a kid, even seeing your mugshot and things like that, it's still, growing up with you, it never changed my perspective on who you are as a human being. Because at the end of the day, it's not what somebody was or what they did, it's who they are in the moment and what they've become due to the challenges that they faced. I've seen a lot of different people, even my own, my own mother being from El Salvador, being an immigrant moving here, all the struggles she faced, she has her problems, she has, how she acts, but she still is the mom who I've grown up with and the mom I've learned to love. And the same goes to you. You were born and raised in a rough place like New York, went all through the gang violence, lost your parents, things like that, whole bunch of things that you struggled with. At the end of the day, you're still the dad that I love and care about. And you're still the person who has put in work to raise me, put me down the right path, wants to put me through school, everything like that. You still have the positivity and still strive to make change, not only for yourself, but for other individuals who were just like you when you were younger and don't have, the guidance of where to go. And that's where, a lot of people think that as soon as somebody is involved with a game, they're gone forever. But in reality, it's, people like you who want to really push for those people to change, no matter how involved they are. You know that no matter what a person does, deep inside there's still somebody else. They're just somebody who's lost and, needs some guidance as to make the right decision. And the main sad thing about it is that some people don't live long enough to have that guidance. But the people who do, that's exactly the people who will change, I'm blessed to know that my father was able to survive throughout that, and that I still have a dad to be there for me and to help me through everything, call and tell them that I got into college, call and ask him to even be here today. And it's sad to know that, even some fathers, some mothers don't get those phone calls from their kids anymore to show that they've made that change. And there's some, not only kids, but some dads who are even involved in that, who kids can't call their dad to tell them those kinds of things, can't call their parents to tell them, hey, like, I finally got into school. So sometimes it's not only the youth that is involved in it, sometimes it's even the parents that are involved with it, and the kids aren't, and they can't call their parents to tell them those things. And that's what makes it so sad to see, that some parents can get their kids phone calls about their achievements, how, they did well in school, or how, they're out, got a job interview, got accepted to a job, got accepted to a college, got scholarships, things like that. All these things that are positive, parents don't get that. There are some kids that are doing that can't call their parents and tell them, hey, I did this. And that's where the dynamic is just really gets even more sad out of just the losses, but it's also just...
It gets tough, man, but we keep fighting. For those that are still here, we continue the fight every single day. They keep walking through my doors. They keep approaching me. The court system still calls. We show up every single time. I mean, today, thank God, I'm not by myself. I have a team who's on point. So we continue to show up for them. And we never say no. We keep doing what we need to do, right? So it's definitely, it's not an easy task. I love what I do. I love what I do. Some days are better than others. Definitely the sad days, the funerals and the wakes and, the crying parents. When you go to court and not only the wakes, but those that commit the crime are young people also. When you know both sides of that, right? The young person that has died and the young person that has committed that crime, when you know both of those sides and you're in court and you have both families in court, that's a hard pill to swallow. When you're in the middle and you're trying to mediate to make, you know what I mean? That is where it gets hard, right? But you continue to show up and you try to support them, and at least the families know where I stand. They know that I'm for one and just like I'm for the other. You try to help them understand this young person made a really bad decision, and they're going to probably pay for the rest of their life. It's not so much going to jail. It's the fact that it sits here. Again, once that bullet leaves that gun, it's over. It's done. It will own you and haunt you for the rest of your life. Trust me, I know that. I know that for a fact. And it's hard. I got, I say it all the time, I got a great opportunity at life, man, and some days are better than others. I remember having really bad days, and, ride my bike or whatever it was that I had at the time and going over there to your house and sitting on the porch with you when you were little, walking you home from school, stopping at the Blue Store and just talking on the way home about your day at school, and you telling me all the great things you did in school. You know what I mean? That would make all them things go away, man. You know what I mean? Like, not many of us get that opportunity. I never thought I'd make it as far as I did in life. I never thought I was going to make it out of them streets. I literally thought I was going to die in them streets. Never in a million years did I ever think that I was going to end up in Lytton, on top of being here, stay clean as long as I did, and have you in my life. You have molded me into the man that I am. Because of you, I'm the dad that I am. And have an understanding of who I am and what my purpose is. I want every young person to have the opportunity that you have and have gotten. You know what I mean? I know that I might not show up every single time, but you know that in spirit I'm there. I get those calls from the police or a parent in the middle of the night, and I got to run out of the house, and now I got the scooter, so I hop on the scooter and go across town, man, and I go on a crime scene at a shooting, like recent, and there's blood everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? I cringe when I see that, and I think about you, and I think about other young people, and it's like, all I can think about is the parents of these kids, and where this is going to go, and when is the retaliation going to happen, and how do we prevent it, and what do we need to do? Who do I need to call? And I'm calling, and I'm checking on this one, that one, and the other one, and making sure, you know what I mean? In that moment. But I have you here because if I don't help make change now, then how you and your friends and your schoolmates and the rest stand a chance? Because we don't know what's going to happen next. So the fight continues. And it's going to be here long before, long after I leave. I'm going to retire someday. I don't know. I'm going to retire. I say 3 years. When I leave, this will still be here. Lysol will still be here. The work will still be happening. It has to. Gangs are not going anywhere. It's a matter of how we work with our young people and educate. So, yeah.
So, like, going off of that note, I just, as another form of being able to get your message out there, just to kind of wrap this up, I just wanted to ask you what would be, your message to not only young people, but people involved in it, and just anybody who could possibly lead to getting involved into that kind of thing. What would be your primary message and saying to maybe plant something in their heads that could, stray them to the right path?
Think before you react, right? Think about what are you willing to give up for that. In a nutshell, in a whole, what are you willing to give up? I knew what I gave up. I knew what I was willing to give up, right? When I joined, I gave everything up. When I went in on that, right? When I joined one gang. That was it. For the next how many years I lasted in that thing, and it was a long time, I stayed loyal to that, right? And I didn't understand everything that I gave up for that. I respected my mother, didn't bring it home. I didn't bring it to her doorstep. But everything else was free reign. I had no respect for nobody, including myself, right? So it becomes a matter of, do you really have it in your heart? If you're really about that, what are you willing to give up for that? Because once you do that and you cross that line, you got to be prepared for what's coming. Because there are some people out there that are really truly about that, right? That will take you out and not think twice, man. Right? And there are some people who think they are, and when the time comes, you find out real fast that you're not. Now you find yourself in a place that, how do I get out of this? And it's too late. You got many that are sitting in jail right now that are wondering how the hell did they get there, because nobody told them that that's exactly what was going to happen if you made that choice. So, think before you make that decision. Real simple. There's no dictionary, there's no book knowledge. It's real simple. Think about it before you make that decision. And if you in there and you doubting yourself, you better find somebody who gonna help you with that. I'm easy to find. Let's figure it out. Right? I tell guys, listen, I don't care who you walk with. Those that are out there know me, man. I'm willing to help anybody. As long as you keep you alive, yeah. Make some changes in your life, and maybe hopefully later on, as you get older, you make those changes that are going to help you stay. So,
well,
I'm proud of you. I really am. Yeah, not so much for the interview, but of who you've become and the decisions that you have made and the influences that I'm sure you've had, not only, those that you surround yourself with. You are definitely, have grown up. One hell of a young man, son. Definitely. Your grandparents, very proud of you. Definitely. You're a better man than I am. And a better man than I'll ever be. Love you for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you put in for others. Not only for me as your son, doing what you can to help me get through everything, but also to help you provide for people around me. Because I've seen, even some people around my age that know you, that come up to me, say hi to me, that I don't even know them, but they know you. And I've also seen, a bunch of adults, at my job even, all my jobs, both of them, how much they know you there, things like that. And, just the changes you make for, the community itself, Like, I don't only thank you as, your son for what you've done for me, but I also thank you on behalf of everybody else for the changes you make. And, somebody like you doesn't come around often, as much as you've, made all the negative impact that you may have done in the past, but you've more than enough made up for it with the changes you've made. And, you've done more than that. And I think not only would, the people of the past that you may have wronged would forgive you, but, I think my grandparents would also be very happy with what you've done as, their kid, and as, the changes you made. And like, of course, me being younger, there was some problems between me and you even and stuff like that, but I know more than enough as your son that I've forgiven you for everything you've done. And, I'm happy to say, and I'm very proud to say that you are my dad, and you are my father, and you are the individual who you are. And I think everybody would agree on that as well, that, as much as you say, I may be a better man than you are, but you are a great man yourself as well. And you are an even better person. I think all the things you strive for are what everybody should strive for as well. And that's making a positive change, no matter where you are, whether it's in school, out in public, at a workplace, wherever it may be. It's always making the positive impacts, and it's the smallest to the biggest things that matter.
I always say, before I close with do something good for you, but do something better for others and your community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that's everything we have for today. I would, love to thank everybody for watching, and I would love to thank you too for being here and speaking to not only me, but, whoever is going to watch this who may be in a struggling situation and may, be scared to speak out on whatever it may be. I hope that, they can reach out to you and, reach out to anybody around them to make a change. And, yeah. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you have an amazing night, whatever.